Hello, Nurses of America. We have a special guest, Rachel Santana. You guys probably know her from TikToks, Instagram. She has a massive following. We're gonna be talking everything about nursing and especially COVID nursing. She actually started in the hospital the month COVID hit. So it's gonna be very interesting today. Rachel, how are you doing?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to be here. I've never been to LA before, so this is super exciting.
Yeah, so tell the audience, I guess, where you're from and what specialty you were in. And
Yeah, so I'm from Miami, Florida, born and raised. My parents are Cuban, so I was raised with that. I learned English in school. Spanish was my first language.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
I went to nursing school, started in 2017, finished in 2019.
Okay.
'Cause I went somewhere first for my prerequisites, got my associates, and which honestly was great. I went to community college, got my associates, and then
Okay.
transferred, and I saved so much money. So I have no loans,
know,
thanks
so-
to that. So that's like highly recommended. If you can do that,
yeah.
do it. It's the way to go. I got my bachelor's in nursing, and then I started working as a nurse March 2020.
So March 2020, the same month that COVID happened.
The same month. So like I remember my first day of work, it was like, okay, we're all saving our masks. Like nobody wear masks. Is when there wasn't any. Like there
In a
was like
little
no
plastic
supplies.
bag?
Yeah, it was like
Or a paper bag.
Yeah, like the paper bag or like the little biohazard bags that you put it in.
Oh my gosh. And that's the first month, you're precepting, right? You're a new grad.
Yeah, I was a new grad. I had a preceptor. Yeah.
Oh
So I was
my
training.
God.
I was training and I had a preceptor. Yeah.
Did anyone know what COVID was back then? Like,
No, like we had no idea. Like it was like when it first came out, we didn't know what it was. We thought it was like super contagious. Like just like, I mean it is, but it was, we thought of it
Like
as like
Ebola.
TB. Like it's,
Oh,
it's
TB,
the
yeah.
same thing as TB. It's an airborne precaution.
Oh,
So we're
okay,
like,
okay.
okay, kind of categorize the same thing as TB, just leave it at that.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so I started, it was my first day, and I remember my first day, I get there and like nobody had a mask or anything. And they were like, oh, it was like secret, like, oh, there's one case in the ICU, like just one case.
Okay.
It's like this 30-year-old female, and she's like in critical condition, intubated and everything. And we were like, I didn't know what it was. I was like so scared.
Yeah.
And then since my unit was a pulmonary step-down unit,
Okay.
it was like one of the only units in the hospital that takes like vents, trachs, all that stuff, like all the respiratory stuff.
You were like one of the only ones in the hospital for vents?
Yeah, on the floors.
Oh,
one of
the floors,
So
okay.
there's like the ICU, and then there was our floor, and then that was it. It was like, you
Your
know, there's
floor.
like, yeah, you know, there's like a cardiac floor, and then there's like a pulmonary. That's it. So,
Snap.
obviously, since it was a pulmonary floor, we took like BiPAPs, high flows, all of that, which a lot of other floors don't really take that. So my unit, like a month later, that's it. It was the COVID unit. Like it was full on COVID, and that's all I knew.
Being in the hospital, you're in the pulmonary unit, you were one of the only units that actually had ventilators in the whole hospital.
Yeah.
And so you guys became the COVID unit. And you're a new grad, you're precepting.
Yeah.
That must have been wild.
Yeah, I mean, it was wild.
Yeah.
But like, that's all there was. There was nothing else. So I just had to adapt.
Did you guys have equipment?
Yeah, we did. We had
I mean-
a lot of equipment.
I mean, like PPE and like
Yeah.
N95s?
Honestly, I did work for like one of like the really good top hospitals,
Really?
private hospitals. We always had like pretty much everything.
Okay.
And I worked at other hospitals since then.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to realize you're like, wow, they had everything.
You had a good home.
Yeah, I had a good first home. I feel like they trained me really well.
Okay.
The first place I worked at, and it was good because they had a new grad program. So
How
I would
long was
say,
your grad?
huh?
How long was your grad?
It was 18 weeks.
No way.
Yeah, it's pretty good, not bad.
Was
I
that
mean,
4? Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, they cut my training a little short because of COVID. They're like, we don't have time for this. Like, it was
Really?
probably like 14 weeks.
Do you
but-
think you were trained well enough during that time frame?
Yeah, super. I mean, I feel like I learned a lot in school.
Yeah.
And I also learned quickly, so it was really easy for me to like adapt and learn. And everybody that got hired, we were all like young and we were all new, so it was like a good environment. You know, it wasn't like a toxic environment.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a big thing that happens here, like the toxic nursing environment where like they eat their young. It wasn't that kind of situation there, just because everybody was young and everybody was new.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it was good. So I feel like that's one of the things that you look for. Like when you first start working, you look around and you make sure that it's a good environment. It's not toxic. You know, there's no like bullying, because that happens all the time. Bullying, harassment.
Have you ever gotten bullied? Like, I mean,
No,
I
I
guess
mean,
as a new nurse or any
Everybody,
nurse.
like I remember, well, I started posting on TikTok March 2020 when it was new. Yeah.
It was
like,
all happening at the same time.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So like I started posting then, and like when I was posting, now everybody uses it. It's like the #1 used app.
Yeah.
And like I think it like outdid Google or something. Saw the other day. So now everybody uses it. Everybody has it. Like if you don't have it, you're weird at this point. But at that point, if you had it, it was like lame. So when I had it, like some people, like I guess I heard like they didn't like me because I made videos.
Because you made TikToks?
But yeah.
But now all the nurses
I
are
don't
like,
care. Yeah, like I didn't care. It was for fun. It was my creative outlet. Like the job is so stressful, and there was nothing else to do. Everything was closed.
Yeah.
It's not like we could go out, clubbing, partying, restaurants. Everything was closed. That was my creative outlet. That's how I started, and it just grew from there. I did it for fun. I did it 100% for fun. I still do it for fun. You know, it is cool if I get brand deals and monetization. You know, that's cool. But I really just do it for fun.
So what was your mission starting out? You just
For fun, yeah.
use it as a creative outlet.
I started with 0 followers. I didn't promote it. The reason why I made a TikTok was just so I could replay that video and share it on my Instagram story. Because nobody even had TikTok. So I didn't have, like my friends didn't have it.
Remember that.
So I was like, let me make a video and then share it to my story. And then I remember I had 0 followers. I posted a video. And then the next day I had 5,000 on that. And I was like, wow, TikTok is easy. That's what I thought. I was like, this is easy. This is great. And then I just started posting from there, and it, like the growth is so organic.
Yeah.
Just because your video gets thrown out into the algorithm, and it just grows. I don't really understand the algorithm. I didn't put in the beginning like really any hashtag or anything. I just put it, and it just grew, and it just kept going.
So then your coworkers found it, and they started giving you some hate or shade, or
I wouldn't say hate or shade. Like I'd say not to my face. I feel like nobody really.
They
said
thought you're
anything.
like, oh, she's an influencer now, míralo. Like.
Yeah, and I would ignore it. I mean, the people that like you and the people that support you are always gonna support you, and the people that don't like you are always gonna not like you. It's always like, I feel like it's an 80-20 rule. Like 80% of people are gonna love what you do, and there's always gonna be that 20% that just don't like you.
Yeah.
And that's just in life, no matter what you do.
But being a new nurse, right? You're trying to make that first impression.
Yeah.
And now you're known as the TikTok nurse. That ever?
Yeah. So there was that, but like at the end of the day, dude, I really didn't care. Like I'm here to learn, and I'm here to do my thing. And I'm here to have fun, and if you don't like that, that's on you. Like I've always been very like about myself, carefree. The only person that needs to like me is me. Like you know, like I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna treat everybody with respect, and my patient, and that's it. I was just focused on the job, and I feel like that's the most important part.
So I asked this because I actually got fired for having a YouTube channel.
Shut up.
It wasn't like that. So I told this story multiple times, but it's like, when I was new as a nurse, I don't know if there's like any like animosity toward males, at least. I don't know, maybe it was just my unit. So one of the students wanted to take a picture with me, and then the charge nurse was like, oh, who's this? And like, this is Mike Linares. He's really big on YouTube, blah, blah, blah.
Stop.
And then so they started asking me questions, the charge nurse, and I'm like, oh, they just kind of want to know. And then it turned into like them tattletaling on me, like to the charge nurse.
But you're not even doing anything at work.
The director. And they said, oh, he's self-promoting his business. He's being cocky. He's not a good fit. He's toxic for the our culture.
Stop.
And then so then every time someone asked me about YouTube, I couldn't mention anything. I said, I'm sorry, I can't say that.
I'm shocked. Okay, so
that's what I'm saying. Like, so you being a new nurse, did you ever get any animosity or anyone hating on you for like, I guess the first impressions, or was it all cool?
So
and you just kept everything?
I mean, when I started, I didn't have a following or anything. So everybody. That's where I had like the benefit. Everybody knew me without the following because I didn't have it when I started.
Okay.
And then when I was 6 months in, because like I started March 2020 and I started posting little by little, but I didn't really have that big a following to call anybody's attention, you know, like to get attention over it. And then when my video blew up, it was in August. So I started in March, my video blew up in August. So I was already
seasoned, yeah.
Yeah, I was already pretty seasoned. Like
good, yeah.
Yeah, like at that point I didn't have a preceptor anymore. I was already on my own. I had just switched to night shift. So I wasn't even working with day shift anymore. And night shift was super cool. Everybody was like young, like fun, like
cool.
It was a way better vibe than day shift. Day shift, everybody was so stressed out. And you know, not because of who they are, because everybody is nice, everybody was cool, but like day shift itself is just so stressful because you have like administration and you have like patients and they're with their families there and the people are awake. At night, everything is like a little bit slower.
And they're younger too, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's like more chill and hip
and more
like,
fun
cool.
and like and like you
like
have
the
more
day
time.
shift's like older nurses. And
a little
more
more like more serious, like a little more uptight, a little more by the book, because they have to be. Like, you can't have your coffee at the nurse's station during day shift because administration's walking around like, infection control. But at night, you can eat like a whole pizza, like as you're charting and typing, and like just like grease throwing down your face, just like whatever, like your mask to the side, like because it's like nobody's there, you know? So that was a difference. So yeah, so when my things did blow up in August, at that point, everybody kind of already knew me. And the people that knew I was a good nurse and knew that I was good with my job and knew that I was serious and knew that I was professional were just like, oh, that's so cool. Like, that's awesome. Like, I'm so happy for you. And then, like, people that I guess just didn't like me from before.
You know, haters gonna hate.
For no reason, because I'm so honestly so nice to everybody, treat everybody with respect. But I don't let anybody walk all over me, and don't let anybody give me attitude. Like, I stop it in its place, you know? As a new nurse, you always have to. So then I think it was like October, November. My boss like messaged me and was like, hey, can you stay? I worked night shift. When you clock out for night shift, like come to my office, please. I want to talk to you. I was close to the night shift supervisor. So I asked her, I'm like, hey, like, do you know what this is about? Like, did I do anything wrong? I'm here thinking, like, the last thing on my mind is social media. I'm thinking, like, I forgot to chart something. I forgot to take a picture of a wound. Like, I was really busy. Like, what did I do? You know? I forgot to scan a med. Like, the boberia, like, the little things that you get in trouble for. And then she's like, oh, it's about social media. And I'm like,
what?
And I had never posted a video at work. And never. So I'm like, that's ridiculous. And there was a video, and she's like, oh, I saw a video of you dancing with like a pump in the back. And I was like, yeah, it's called green screen mode.
Oh, man.
And like, I showed her, and I showed her, and I like explained it to her. And she was like, she felt so like, she was like mind blown. She felt so dumb.
She must have felt embarrassed.
I showed it to her, and she's like, how'd you do that? And I was like, I went to her office.
This is called the green screen.
Yeah, and I showed her, like, I Googled like a picture of SpongeBob, like under the sea. And I put us, and I was like, you just have to use a white background and a ring light, and it looks like you're under the sea. And I was like, and she's like, where'd you get? And I was like, look, if you look closely, like this pump, like we don't have it in this hospital, and this wall isn't from this hospital. And she's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I just Googled like hospital background. And she's like, oh, cool. And she's like, oh, that's so funny. And then she was like super into it. She's like, oh, I'm gonna follow you. Like, this is so funny. Like, I wanna start doing this, whatever. So she was cool with it. And then she's like, oh, well, probably like our manager doesn't know that, so she probably wants to talk to you about it. And that's it. And I was like, okay. So I go to her office at 7:30 in the morning when I clock out, and it's like my supervisor, my manager, and then like some random guy. And like in a suit. Like a random guy in a suit.
HR.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I'm like,
no.
hi, good morning. I look like crap. I'm like super tired from night shift. I'm like exhausted with my backpack. I'm like, hey. And they're like, oh, please have a seat. Like very proper. Everybody stood when I came. And was, hi, this is whatever. He's the head of HR and whatever. So we want to talk to you about your social media. And I was like, okay. And they're like, you know, we're just aware that you're famous. And I was like, famous? And they're like, yeah, because you have an M next to your following, like millions. If you have millions of followers, that's very, like, you know, that's very important.
They're like, you have an M? Yeah.
And I was like, in my head, I'm like, this is so ridiculous. This is the most ridiculous thing ever. I was like, this has to be a joke. This has to be a joke.
Wait, so they're not even worried about they're worried about the M, like the million?
They're worried about the following, yeah. They're worried about the following,
That's
the
your
impact.
personal life, though.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. And they're like, yeah, you know, just be careful what you post. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, I don't post at work. Everything is green screen, or like I don't do it here. If I've ever done anything, because like technically, if you look at like the hospital guidelines, which I did, you're not even supposed to post like in the parking lot of the hospital.
What?
Like even if you're clocked out, you're not supposed to.
That's so dumb.
So I was looking at like the guidelines. I was like, okay, so you really can't do anything in the proximity.
Yeah, on property.
In that area, it violates their social media policy.
All right.
So I do understand. So I was like, oh, I don't do anything. Everything is like on my own time, not on company money, and you know, like with green screen background at home. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And they were honestly at that point they were like really nice. And they were like, okay, well, you know, just like keep it to yourself. Like do what you do. Like we support it. Like don't do things at work. And I was like, okay, like we just wanted you to know that like we know. And I was like, okay, and that was it. And that was like the first time they talked to me. And then
the first time
they talked to me.
Oh shoot! See, yes. Okay, go ahead.
After that, it was like they called me into the office. I call it the principal's office.
Yeah.
I got called into the principal's office, 9 times.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
9 times.
I got reported. Okay, who reported or what was this about?
It was like people were leaving, like they were like, oh, we got an anonymous email. Yeah, right. They
That's
probably
so
sent it themselves
dumb,
because
yeah.
they wanted me out for sure. But they can't
Who
fire
wanted
me.
you out?
I think they did. Like,
Who?
Like HR, like
The manager? Why?
I don't know. It was like a very strict hospital.
Oh.
And they want everything to be clean and polished, and they want to control what goes out to them.
You can't even like,
I don't know.
even if you're not talking about
Yeah, I don't know.
work and stuff?
I feel like maybe they just didn't like me. Maybe
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so that's exactly
I
what
don't
I
know.
felt on YouTube. Like, but it was my coworkers reporting me and like
No,
making lies.
my coworkers didn't report me ever.
Oh,
Everybody
okay.
always had my back. It was the opposite. It was like
Wow.
random. I remember one time they called me in and they're like, "Oh, this isn't really relevant, but like just because it was, somebody sent us an email, we have to talk to you about it." Somebody screenshotted a video that I had of me blow drying my hair in my room with my Dyson, like a tutorial on like how I use my Dyson hair dryer.
How is that even relevant?
Somebody screenshotted it
Okay.
and sent it, and then said, "This nurse is making videos in the hospital."
What?
You can clearly see it's like my closet, and I'm wearing like a cute like pink top, and like I'm home.
But obviously you were at home, right?
Yeah, I was home.
It wasn't even the hospital.
No, I wasn't at the hospital. I had full face
That
of
is
makeup.
dumb.
And then they're like, and then my manager like showed it to me, like printed out the email. She's like, yeah, and I'm like, you know that this is my room? She's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, this is my shirt, this is my room, this is my hair dryer. I was like, you think I come to the hospital because there's such good lighting here? She's like, yeah, I know, but somebody complained.
It doesn't matter. That
And
is
I was like-
dumb.
And I was like, so you're calling me in to talk about this?
Me hair blue.
Me and my personal life?
Yeah.
What I do in my personal life when I don't even. I understand if I had a contract with the hospital and I was like the face of the hospital
Yeah.
and I would like represent them and it's like, yeah, okay, so you're representing us. It's like, no, I don't wear my badge. Nobody knows I work here.
You're not
It's
paying
very
me to
low key.
represent you.
You're not paying me to represent you. I'm not
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
the face of your hospital, whatever. I got called in for the first time, right? That happened. And then like a few weeks later, I got an email and it was like forwarded to me, like my work email. And it was like my supervisor, there was like a competition at work, like who can make the best TikTok and show that you're hashtag whatever, I don't want to say the name of the hospital, whatever proud. Like you're a proud whatever nurse.
Okay.
Like you're a proud, nurse.
Yeah.
And like make a video about like patient safety. And then they approached me about it, and I was like,
You're
yeah.
the one telling me not to do all
No.
this.
So
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I approached my manager, and I was like, yeah. So like, that's something that I do in my separate time. And like, if you guys are interested in me making a video for your hospital, then I can send you my rate sheet.
Yeah,
With
good
how much
job.
money, how
Yes.
much money it's gonna cost you because you're a brand. The hospital makes millions of dollars.
You go,
It's a
girl, yeah.
billion-dollar organization. You could pay me a little bit for a little video, especially if I'm gonna take my own time to do it.
Of course.
So I was like, okay, I'll send you my rate sheet. And they were like my manager was like, huh? And I was like, yeah, like I charge companies for
Yeah, this is your personal
promo.
thing. Yeah.
I'm not doing this for free.
Imagine if you did hair and they want you, oh yeah, can you do our
Can you
hair?
do my hair for free?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm your boss?
Yeah.
No. I was like, oh, and then they were like, oh, okay, yeah, I think they just kind of wanted you to do it for free. And I was like, no, that's not gonna happen. And then they're like, okay, well, I'll let them know. And I was like, okay. And from that point forward, everything I did was a problem. When
Everything
it
you
wasn't.
did,
So I thought that
got it.
was like sketchy because
Yeah.
I was like, so I didn't want to promo for you, so you guys are kind of like punishing me.
Retaliation, yeah.
Whatever. But that's my
so
theory. That's what everybody else thinks that I work, because I did tell my coworkers and they're like, that's ridiculous. They should have just, I'm like, whatever. It is what it is. I left it at that. And then I just kept everything very separate.
Yeah.
And then I got random complaints. And then I was like, you know what? I really don't need
It's
this.
not even worth it.
It's not even worth it. So I left. I stopped working there and I found a new job and I'm much happier now.
How long did you work there for?
Like 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I worked there for a while, like 2 years, yeah.
Usually they want to retain at all costs nurses and be on your best side. That's weird.
And I told them, and I was like, I didn't say it was because of that. It was like, I think it was like 60% because of that.
Oh, okay.
And then like the other percentage was just like, I didn't want to be bedside anymore. Like I was
Really?
very burnt out. Yeah, I'm too burnt out.
So what do you mean bedside? You don't do bedside now. What do you do?
I do. I work
wait.
in the cardiac cath lab.
Oh, you work in cardiac cath lab. Okay, before we move on, to the big take home for new grad nurses and really any nurse out there that's getting into TikTok, guys, if you're gonna get a following, just make sure, I don't know, any tips? Like, because it seemed like you were doing everything right.
I think for sure, if you're gonna do social media as a nurse,
Private.
like things that I knew from the beginning. No, you could be public.
You
You
can
can
be
have
public.
your platform. I think social media is great, and you can always use it to promote great things.
Do you think that new nurses, especially the Gen Zers and the young, do you think they should go to their managers first and be forthcoming about it and saying, hey, I got a social media following, and no?
I think that whatever you do in your personal life is
Yeah.
private from your actual job, and I don't think you should have to share that because it's the law. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to. Whatever you do in your free time is your free time, as long as you're not wearing a badge or anything. So I work at another hospital now, and when I had my hospital orientation, they were saying how somebody was wearing scrubs and they were wearing a hospital badge, and they went to the grocery store and they stole something.
What?
Yeah. And
Is that true?
Unfortunately, it is true.
Oh, snap.
And they stole something, and the hospital had to fire them because they were wearing their badge. They were representing that hospital, and it looked really bad. And they felt bad because it was somebody that wasn't making a lot of money, and they had to steal in order to like provide for the family. It was like a horrible situation. And the hospital wanted to have their back. So I think they did send them like money to help the family, but they unfortunately had to let them go because you're representing the hospital.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a.
So, and then they were like, the story would have been different if he stole something, he was only wearing scrubs, and he wasn't wearing his badge. We would have never found out.
Wow.
So what I take away from that is, as long as you're not wearing your badge, as long as you're not representing that organization, as long as I'm not taking a picture, like a little selfie outside the hospital with the name of the hospital on the back, it shouldn't be an issue. So just always keep where you work private and separate, because you don't want to attach yourself to that brand. I think that's like super important. It's like like anything. Like if you work at McDonald's, you're wearing a McDonald's uniform, and you go and you punch somebody in the face on the street, like it's gonna associate working at McDonald's being aggressive, being violent. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just don't. You want to keep it separate.
That makes sense.
So keep
Being
it
cheap
separate.
and dirty,
yeah. Don't wear your badge.
Yeah.
You know.
So you said you left your previous hospital 60% because you didn't want to do
60% because they were so like annoying and aggressive about the social media that I wasn't even doing there. And I don't like people calling my attention.
Yeah.
Because it's just unnecessary, and it's an unnecessary stress that I don't need. I feel like now is the best time ever in history, if you're a nurse, to go wherever you want.
Yeah.
Because
you can do
hospitals-
anything.
Yeah, you can do anything because hospitals need you. So like if I wanted to leave,
You're in demand.
You're in demand. You're in demand, so you have the power, and you need to know that. So I was like, I already have experience. If I wanted to go to ICU to do the CRNA school thing, I can go to any ICU right now because anybody's gonna take me. If I wanted to do like labor and delivery, I could go to any hospital. They're gonna take me and train me. You know, like now is the time. If I wanted to leave and do travel nurse, make thousands of dollars a month, I can. $1,000 a week. I'm sorry.
$1,000 a week.
Thousands of dollars a week as a travel nurse, I could. Then I was like, okay, what do I want to do? So then I was like, honestly, I just want to stay in Miami because I want to be close to my family, my boyfriend, my friends. I didn't want to go away. Money comes and goes, and I just didn't think it was worth it for me in that time. I like being with my family. It matters more to me than making money as a traveler. And I didn't want to do bedside anymore because I'm burnt out. Because bedside really burned me out. I worked so much overtime during pandemic that it just, like, it was too much. I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to deal with, like, it was too much death, I feel like.
So you got out of bedside because you think it was because of the pandemic?
Yeah,
or COVID?
it was too much. Yeah, it was too much. It was too much. It was like.
Do you think your hospital adapted it well enough?
I think they did a good job.
Do you really? Okay.
Yeah, I think they did a good job. They could have paid us more money, for sure. It would have retained a lot of nurses. We asked for a lot more money.
What's the most draining part of, I guess, how'd you get burned out? Was it the staffing? Was it the patient load?
It was the patient load because I used to work step down, and I worked on a unit where I would get 3 patients. 3 patients that were like total care, like all vented, and like total care patients. Like they had a PEG, a rectal tube, a Foley, a trach, and those are all things you have to do care on. Then they had 1,000 wounds, and I had to take care of all the wounds. And then I had 3 patients like that. So I had 3 total care patients that would take me a lot of time.
Okay.
And let's say there's like only like 2 like CPs or CNAs. You know, those 2 CPs or those 2 CNAs have like 10 patients.
Dang.
They can't clean 10 people, so you have to do your part too as a nurse, or you have to coordinate with them like, oh, I need to clean my patient at 5 in the morning because day shift is at 6, I don't want to leave them dirty. And then they're like, oh, I can't. So you had to like as much, the assistants on my floor were angels. They would help so much because you know there's some bad ones.
Oh, yeah.
And a
trust me,
bad CP will ruin your life.
What do you
will
mean?
F up your whole night. Because you have to do everything yourself. Like they don't do anything, like the lazy ones, but I had the best on my floor, I can't complain. They helped me so much, especially as a new grad.
Did you feel awkward asking them for help? Because a lot of new grads
No.
don't. Really?
No, I mean, you have to develop a relationship with somebody. You can't just, I feel like it's rude to just show up somewhere and start demanding things.
Oh, okay.
I'm the nurse you're the CNA, and then you just call them and you're like, yeah, so like go to the room and like clean the patient. Like, no.
I've seen that before.
That's not
too.
how you
That's
talk
so
to
rude,
people.
yeah.
That's so rude. Imagine if a doctor comes in here and tells me, do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Excuse
Hurry
me?
up. Yeah,
I'm not gonna do it. First of all, I'm not gonna do it.
First up, watch your mouth.
Who are you? Absolutely not. So you have to, depends how you, I think communication is a big key. It's all about the delivery of the message. So like when I first started off, I tried to like get to know everybody. I was really nice. I would do as much as I can on my own. And then when I was like drowning, I'd be like, hey, can you please help me? And then also like, if I'm not having a busy night, like, and I could take my patient's own blood sugar, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna ask them to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like things like that help, and they appreciate that. They see that. They're like, oh, do you need me to check the sugar for it? I'm like, oh, I already did it because I was already in there and I already drew blood, so I just, oh, thank you, I appreciate it. So I think you yourself as a new nurse should always like be a really good team player and do as much as you can do as a nurse. And then when you really need them and you need that teamwork, then you like collaborate with them and you tell them, okay, please, or oh, I have a patient. I think the best way to say it, I saw a video on TikTok about that the other day. The best way to say it is like, oh, I have to clean the patient in room 3, but you know, they're really big and they're really heavy. You definitely can't do it on your own. I can help you, just let me know when you're free. And like you guys do it together. You know what I mean?
Oh, nice. Okay.
That's fair.
Instead of telling them, you suggest the teamwork.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, you know, sometimes they'll kind of figure it out on their own. But if they have to call me, I have no problem helping. Because at the end of the day, it falls on you. As a nurse, it falls on you.
Yeah, you're the one.
You're the one that's in trouble.
You're responsible,
so
yeah.
if they don't clean them, guess what? They had 12 other patients to take care of. Where were you? And you had 3. So it always falls on you as a nurse. So, you know, it's your responsibility.
And I've seen so many, because I used to be a tech for like a few years.
For real?
In the ER, yeah.
Yeah, and wouldn't you appreciate when the nurses
That's
would
what
do?
I mean, yeah. Like there was some nurses that would just talk bad to you, just like, hey, go over here and do this. And so you already knew in the ER, I knew, I had like 15 patients, or kind of just floated around.
Yeah, exactly.
And so like, if there was a nurse that you didn't want to help, you would just like say like, oh, you know what, I'm busy in room, you know, the next room.
Of course.
And so that nurse will be all on her alone, and she knows she has to do all the work by herself now.
And that sucks, man.
But that's what I mean. Like, yeah, you have to like know how to. People are human, right? Like, talk to them. Like, you know,
and,
it's a collaborative.
Honestly, like time flies by during the shift faster when you help people.
I know.
Like I've always been like team player,
Yeah,
like help
yeah.
whoever. Like all right, I'll go in there with you, or like oh. Like I'll see like a nurse struggling, like looking for a CP, and I'm like, okay, she's busy. I'll help you. I'll be the CP for you. What do you need? And then I'll go and I'll help you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's how you have to be. That's the only way to survive. That's night shift. You can only survive night shift like that.
By helping
because,
others.
Yeah,
Because then you're gonna get help too when you need help,
of
right?
course. Yeah, exactly.
Did you ever have a nurse that didn't help? Or I mean, I guess the real question is when you were a new grad and first coming on, was it weird to like offer other people your help, or were you just so swamped?
No, I feel like, honestly, I don't know, maybe I got lucky, or maybe since I always offered to help other people, they offered back.
Oh, okay.
But people always help me. I can't complain about that. People have always helped me. They've always like been there for me, especially like the older nurses on the floor.
Really?
You go and you ask them for advice, and they're like motherly. They're
Aw.
like, yeah. You ask questions. They would never talk down to me.
Wow.
I never felt that way.
So you never felt bullied in coming on?
No. I mean,
Other
I'm
than
sure.
your management.
Or maybe I just like blocked it out. Maybe I don't know. I block things out that I just don't care about. I feel like people have definitely been rude to me, but I kind of just forget it. Like I don't let it affect me. You focus on the positive.
Yeah, where your focus goes, your energy flows. Right?
Exactly.
There you go.
That's good. I like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hashtag that. We should hashtag that.
That's really cute.
Okay, so you got burned out from on the COVID unit, and then where'd you go? So you were on the pulmonary unit in the hospital, then you bounced to another hospital.
Yeah, because I didn't wanna work bedside anymore.
Yeah, the COVID burned you out with all the staffing
I had
things.
that. Like I was done.
And the management.
I had applied in that same hospital that I was working at. I remember they were opening like an ICU residency for transitional nurses, and I applied for it. And I interviewed for it on Monday, and I only interviewed for it because like my other friends were doing it, so I just wanted to do it with them, but I did not want to do it. Like I didn't want to. Like I didn't want to go to ICU, I didn't want to do that, but I was just doing it because everybody else was doing it. And I was like, they're like, oh, come on, we could do it together, like it won't be bad. And
You never wanted to work ICU?
I didn't really want to.
Was it the
no.
hospital or was it the ICU?
No, I was working on a step-down unit, and then it was like to go to ICU, you need training.
Yeah.
So in
But
order
I mean,
to,
was it like the hospital?
oh
you
yeah,
didn't
the
wanna
hospital
work
that I
at?
was working for was doing a residency program.
Yeah.
So you could just transfer, and they'll train you for like 10 weeks.
But it was like you didn't want the ICU experience,
No,
so you didn't want.
I didn't care for it. For
Oh,
what?
Okay.
Why am I gonna stress myself out? For what? I was like, I don't want to. I was like, for what?
I don't need to go
For
to
what?
what's it called, CRNA school, you know.
No, I was like, CRNA school. It didn't sound like the dream to me anymore. I was like, it sounded good in perspective.
Yeah. It sounds
But-
good on paper, yeah.
It sounds good on paper. It looks great on paper. Very impressive. They do a great job, but I was like, you know what? That's not even what I want to do anymore. Like, cause I wanted to do it more for like the financial gain. You can't do things based on that.
Yeah.
Because CRNAs make their highest paid nurse. They make the most money.
Yeah.
So I was like, I wanted to go for that. I was
Okay.
like, oh, that sounds awesome. All you do is intubate and stay with the patient during
Like the
surgery.
cath
That's
lab.
awesome. So then, so then I was like, how can I like do that, but like be a nurse? And then my friend was like, oh, come to the cath lab. It's the best. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. Like you give sedation, you monitor the patient, you watch super cool procedures, you learn so much, and it's not bedside. You get one patient at a time. My biggest thing was having the patient ratio 1 at a time.
So only one patient at a time. What does cath lab do, if you can tell this?
Okay, yeah. So in the cardiac cath lab, they do a lot of diagnostics and then they do procedures. So there's different parts. There's like the cardiac part where they place stents in the heart, do all those things. And then there's neuro, which is where I work in neuro. So we do like angiogram, like cerebral angiogram. So it'll be like a diagnostic. So basically they'll inject fluid into, so they nick the artery, go in through there with a catheter, inject fluid, and then the fluid goes up, and then you take pictures with the X-ray machine,
Like
and you can
highlighter
see.
dye?
Yeah, like you inject fluid, and then you do an X-ray, and then you can see like a CT. CT, whatever. So similar. So there you can see where the issue is. So if there's like an artery that's like stenosed or anything like that, then the surgeon will go in and fix it. So they'll place stents, or they'll do mechanical thrombectomies.
So they'll just take that big chunk of whatever's stuck in
the clot out.
Yeah.
We treat all types of strokes. Then there's like the IR portion.
Man, that's pretty cool. So there's like less like juggling prioritization. It's one patient at a time. You have a fat team, right? You have like a lot of people on.
It's one nurse,
2
techs, like
surgical tech?
CT techs.
Oh, okay.
CT
techs.
radiology techs.
Okay.
So one nurse, 2 techs, and the doctor.
Oh, wow.
And then one tech will assist the doctor, like will be there, will scrub.
Okay.
So like they'll hand the doctor all the instruments and pass them all the coils and all the catheters and all that stuff. The doctor will go in, and then me, I watch the procedure, document everything, and then like I set up a line. So when the patient's underneath on the table, draped, there's an IV, and then like the tubing flowing, and then I can give whatever drugs I need to give.
Dang.
So I can give more sedation, or if there's an emergency, or if I need to start a cardiac drip, anything like that, I do that.
Do you think you're gonna stay in this position forever, or?
I mean, it's always good to, I love it, I don't mind, I would not want to leave there. It's always good to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And this is another thing that is good to add to the resume. So now I have experience on a pulmonary step-down unit, now I have experience working on COVID unit. I also even got med-surg experience, which is super important.
You did?
I got med-surg experience, yeah, because they would float my ass to
They float my ass to med-surg.
Not that I wanted to. I would show up to work today and it's like, yeah, just kidding. You're going to med-surg today? I get 7 patients. Like, great.
All right, so what do you think about med-surg? Because
I think
that face alone. Sorry.
I think med-surg nurses are super underrated because everything that they do, like I bow down to them because I don't know how they do it.
I know.
Like they do so much. There's 7 patients. The workload is insane.
You guys get 7 patients in Florida? So Tamina, we just interviewed, was from Georgia. They get 7 patients as well.
Yeah, the med-surg floor.
All right, so to give you some perspective, California is only 4 to 5 patients max. In the ER, 4 patients. ICU is always 2, but med-surg, that's where a lot of states differ. We only do 5 max. I think that's even overboard. But Georgia, 7. Florida, you guys had 7.
Oh, I'll have a good story if you're interested in a story time.
Yes, story time.
I think this was like, and I'm not a diva. I'm not.
Well,
but I do.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not a diva. I'm not a diva, but like I do put my foot down at work, 100%.
Don't mess with me.
I feel like they'll try to like.
They'll try to test you, like.
They'll try to just get all the money.
Latina,
They'll try to just get all the money out of you and give you like 7 patients, and they don't care.
Yeah.
They gave me a patient. They gave me 5 patients.
Okay.
And one of them was, he wasn't on a vent. He had a pulmonary valve.
Okay.
So like he had the trach.
Oh.
But I'm lying. No, he didn't have the pulmonary valve. He had a trach collar. So he had the trach, and then just like the little collar over it connected to like oxygen.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever, maybe like 8 liters. I don't know. And then I got a patient that was like super unstable, taking off their oxygen every 5 minutes, desatting.
Was this because of COVID thing, or?
This wasn't a COVID unit. This was a regular.
But this was during COVID.
This was during COVID.
So they were probably overlapping people.
They were overlapping people because they had all the nurses floating to COVID units, and then they just threw the people on a non-COVID floor and were like, figure it out.
Dang.
And then they gave me, so I had 5 patients, and then they're like an empty bed. They gave me an admission, and then I had like 3 of my patients like borderline crashing. So I went and I was like, I'm not taking the next patient. Like, what do you mean? I'm like the patient that you're gonna give me, like, I'm not accepting them. So figure it out.
You're allowed to do this, right?
I don't know. I did it. I don't know. I was like, I swear to God, I will leave the like, I will get up and I'll leave. You're not giving me I can't handle it.
Oh yeah, a lot. And well, that's the thing. Like most new nurses and even seasoned nurses, they don't speak up for themselves.
I spoke up.
And how long were you a nurse by then?
Like a year and a few months, like a year and like 2 months, like a year and some change.
All right, so everyone listening, if you're a new nurse, speak up for yourself. No one's gonna advocate for you. You have to advocate for yourself.
Nobody's gonna advocate
That's
for you.
your license, right?
Yeah, that's my license.
And those are unsafe, like, you know.
Super unsafe, and I said
staffing ratios.
I was like, this is super unsafe. Again, nobody complained
Yeah.
about me. Like the patients' families were all nice. Nobody ever complained about me. I've never gotten a complaint from a family member or a complaint from a patient, ever, as a nurse.
But you did the right thing. You spoke up to your supervisor, your directors.
I would be, if I looked at it in the sense, like if that was my grandma, and my grandma was one of those patients and she was unstable, and they gave her a nurse with 5 other patients that were all unstable,
Yeah, your family
I would be
member doing
livid because she wouldn't be taken well care of.
Right.
And my grandma was just in the hospital. She just had a knee replacement.
Dang.
And like I think about that too. I think about, like, you know, because I know some nurses, like, they're overworked and they're overwhelmed, so they won't do as much for the patient. And once I felt like I started getting to that point, like, I'm not gonna half-ass things. Like, I'm gonna do them or I'm not gonna do them at all. So when I got to the point that I was like, I'm burnt out and I feel like I'm not even like being a good nurse anymore, that's when I had to leave.
The hospital.
Yeah, like bedside.
Wow. Okay.
And like in cath lab, I do great. I do the most for my patients.
Yeah, of course.
And that's how I was like, and I'm like a happy nurse. They're like, you have so much energy. I'm like, good morning. At like 7 in the morning, they have so much energy, and like that's good. You have to be positive for people.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
Everyone has had a crabby nurse at one time, and it's not even the nurse's fault, right?
I don't think it's ever the nurse's fault.
It's mostly probably the staffing, the lack of
your environment.
Yeah,
I feel like nobody wakes up and says, I'm gonna be a bad nurse today, and I'm just not gonna do anything. And I'm just gonna be the worst I could be. Like, nobody wakes up like that.
I wake up saying I'm gonna be a badass nurse, you know. But no, I'm just kidding.
I wake up saying I'm gonna kill it. Like, I'm gonna have a good day.
But that's what I mean. Like, everyone kind of gets into nursing to help patients, and it seems like because of the staffing issues and the travel nursing issues and, you know, the lack of staff at hospitals.
You go into nursing to help people, but you have to help yourself too.
That's what I mean.
You have to put yourself first. You can't take care of other people if you don't take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I always.
What do you think about Congress trying to cap nursing pay and hating nurses?
That's ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. And I never like to talk about politics.
No, but
I feel like it's so like.
Why are the pharmaceuticals allowed to make as much and then they want to?
I'm done. I'm so over that. It's ridiculous. I saw this TikTok. Some girl said it. Somebody else said it best. So these are not my words, but I'm just saying.
Okay.
It was like, if you've never had to put multiple patients in a body bag during your shift, then you shouldn't decide how much nurses make. If you never had to call a family member and tell them that their loved one just died, then you shouldn't decide how much nurses make. If you've never like had like emotional distress due to your job, like all these things, you shouldn't decide how much nurses make. And it's all the things that we do as a nurse, and it was like this longer thing, and I don't remember it word for word, but those were like the 2 things that I took away from the most, because it's true. That stuff is draining. You know how many times I've cried during my shift, and like after my shift, and like just things that are like, I remember there was like the worst thing that's ever happened to me that I was like, this is horrible. Like, I cannot believe I'm doing this for like $30 an hour. This is ridiculous. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And it was like, I had a patient, and you know, you always have family members who are like in denial. Okay. Nobody wants their mom to die. Nobody wants their husband to die. Nobody, whatever. So I had, the patient just became CMO during my shift. Like, I remember I had done the paperwork and everything. And that was the decision that they made. But the husband was at bedside, and he was very much in denial. Like, she was put in comfort measures, and he knew what that meant. But then he was like, oh, but like, I hope she makes it to like Christmas.
What?
And I was like, in my head, I'm like, no. And like, I talked to the doctor. The doctor was like, she's not gonna make it till tomorrow morning, like maybe, or next week, like 2 days from now, because she's so end of life. Like, she was stage 4. Like, the oncologist was like, that's it.
And you had to be the nurse to comfort or bring the reality to him, right?
So they gave me her, and then they gave me like 2 critical patients. And
Sheesh.
one of my patients was coding in the morning. Like I had just checked on that room and she was fine. She was like agonally breathing.
Okay.
Already you could tell it was like end of life, but she was still like alive. And then he was at the bedside and he was awake with her. And I'm like, okay, so then I go to check out my other room. My patient's like super bad, like desatting, like needed a breathing treatment. I needed to call on code. I was dealing with all of that. So I finished dealing with the code. Day shift gets there. It's change of shift. And I go to the room that I had just gone in like 45 minutes before my code. The lady, she died. She was dead.
Oh.
I go in there, she's dead.
That was the one on comfort measures.
Yeah, and it was COVID. So I had to like put on my PPE. I go in there right before the day shift gets there to make sure that she's okay, not dirty, anything. I'm not gonna give a dirty patient to.
Crap.
And she's dead, and I had to wake up the guy, the husband, at bedside, and I had to tell her that she died.
And do you think any Congress people are going to be in the room with you, helping that? No?
No! And I felt
You're
so
on your
bad.
own.
I felt so bad. He immediately, I've been in the room many times, like right when you pronounce death, or like right when the patient dies, and it's always the same thing. Like the person's like, first they start like going crazy and screaming and crying and like, no, I can't believe this just happened. And then like when you see somebody, it makes you cry. So like I start crying under all my mask and all my gear, and I feel bad. And then they're crying, and then they always cry. They touch the patient, they hug them, they cry, and then they start immediately calling everybody. So he gets his phone, he starts calling everybody. It's always the same thing. I've always been in that situation, it's always the same thing. They cry, they scream, they touch the patient, then they call people.
Really?
Like, yeah, it calls like the son and the daughter, come to the hospital now, you need to come, they just passed. And then so I had to do that, and then stay, do all the paperwork, call like Lorna, the organ donation services and all of that, see what's viable and not viable. The most awkward part, then you have to go back in the room with all this paperwork. The person's still crying, and you're like, excuse me, do you want to donate organs? Like it's.
Oh, what a worst timing. Yeah, let's chop up your family member and donate some organs.
Yeah, it's horrible.
You have to do that?
Yes, the nurse. The nurse does that.
One Legacy or they don't come and do it for you? Like the organ people don't come and do it for you?
No, you have to go in the room when the patient passes, and it's like this
Shut
paperwork,
up.
and it's like you have to say like, oh, do you have any funeral arrangements or whatever? It's just this paper.
Yeah,
Like you
but
don't do all of that, but it's one of the options. Like, oh, if you guys wanted to whatever, then you can click here. If you guys want to check here, sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here. What are you gonna do with the body? Sign here. So you have to bring in that paperwork. So if you've never had to put anybody in a body bag, you shouldn't decide how much nurses make. If you didn't have to go into a family, go up to a family who's already still crying, grieving, and ask them if they want to donate organs, and if they have funeral arrangements already, sign this paper, then you shouldn't decide how much nurses make.
Yeah, Congress should not be deciding how much you should make.
Like you don't know what I do and what I don't do. Or the times that like I get a patient that dies in the middle of my shift, I have to put them in a body bag, ship them out, and then not even an hour later, when environmental comes and cleans my room, I get a new patient in that room.
Jeez.
Like somebody just died that I was taking care of for 3 weeks that I'm like sad that they died.
Because you're attached to them probably.
Yeah, you do get attached. So I got attached to my patient. He died. I remember I took the wife to the car and everything, which you don't want to do that. There's transport, but I felt bad and I had a bond with her. So I was like, oh, like I'll take you to the car. And like I took her in the wheelchair all the way to her car. And like I was like, I'm so sorry, bye. She was crying. I felt horrible. She's like, thank you so much. Like I hope that, whenever I get to his point, like you could be my nurse. Like it was super sweet. It was super sweet, yeah. And then an hour later, in that same room, I got a new patient.
You like literally have to accept it, grieve it, and go on.
And you have to act like nothing happened. So you have to go into the room with a smile.
Oh my God.
Hi, I'm Rachel. Like.
Do you think that's led to like how do you cope with that personally? Do you carry any of that home with you?
Of course you take that home with you. All of those things go home with you. Like all of that grief that you deal with at work, all of those things, they go home with you. But you just have to take it.
Like what do you do to adapt or cope?
I like to talk. I like to make videos. Talking about like my experiences, but I never talk about that because it's so like gloomy and sad, and I just like to like kind of bury it. I'll talk to my friends about it. I'll talk to like my boyfriend about it. My mom. I'll like to vent.
Yeah, it's like therapy, right?
Journal, like things like that. Things that I could do to let it out. Yeah. Like work out, find healthy habits.
Wine and a lot of wine. No, I'm sorry.
Wine. I like to drink a little bit, but not a lot. Things like that. But I remember. Oh, and I remember one time I did make one TikTok video kind of similar to the situation that I'm saying. It's still up on my TikTok. It was like, that song? It's like, sometimes all I think about is you.
Oh,
that
yeah,
one wave.
yeah.
So that was like a trend. So like I did the trend of like, oh, like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And it's like, oh, sometimes all I think about is you. And then I went to like the scene of like somebody doing CPR on a patient and then passing.
Oh,
and it was like something that I found from a YouTube video.
Okay.
And that was up. But it's just like those things, you take them home with you and you don't forget about them. They change you, they impact you as a person. They change you a lot.
Did you ever find yourself?
You start to get desensitized after a while.
Yeah, like did you ever
For
find yourself
sure.
having struggled to adapt as a new grad or as a new nurse or?
In the beginning, I feel like it was harder for me to like lose people, and then you just lose so many people.
You adapt,
So many
yeah.
people died that it's just like, okay, well, you just like, you're literally desensitized.
Do
You're
you
just like,
know-
whatever.
Do you know of any coworkers that took it really bad or wasn't able?
No, I feel like
Bad?
we were all equally desensitized. It was really bad. There was a point that it was just like death row
During
at the
COVID?
hospital. Yeah, everybody was
Really?
just dying left and right,
Shut
no
up.
matter what you did. And it was like you took care of somebody and you saw them, let's say, on a high flow, and that's like a lower form of oxygen. Then you come next week, they're on a BiPAP, even worse. Then all of a sudden they're intubated. Like they were getting progressively worse. Like
ARDS, right?
everything, yeah. Started to get ARDS from COVID. Yeah.
And then the morgues are full, right?
I don't know anything about that because I just work in hospital, so I
Oh no, when I'm saying the hospital morgue.
probably.
Like, what did you do with the bodies then?
Transport comes to pick them up. You, as the nurse, clean them up, take out the IVs, take out anything they have on them,
Okay.
put like the label, like the toe tag on them, and like label them, and then zip up the body bag, and then you call transport, and then transport picks them and takes them to the morgue. So I don't take them. I just put them in the body bag.
Was there a point during this like COVID, like seeing all the deaths and bodies that you're like, I don't know if I want to be a nurse in this?
Yeah, 100%, like every day.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, this job sucks. This is so depressing.
Yeah.
This job sucks. This is so depressing. There's nothing happy about this. Every day I come, and that's how my burnout started. Every day I come here, it's misery. It's cleaning up people. Nobody's happy. Everybody's in a bad mood. Everybody's sad. Everybody's overworked. And it was like the staff was, I was overworked as a nurse. Like I was tired, my coworkers were tired. It wasn't like a fun, happy place anymore. Like it was when I first started before. I feel like that really changed the game in like the medical field. It's just so sad. It was horrible.
So, what's some recommendations if, let's say, a new nurse is reaching burnout? Like, what gave you the realization of I need to make a change? And I guess what gave you like the bravery to make that change?
What gave me like the bravery to make that change was everybody around me was already, it also helps with your environment. Like, you know how it's who you surround yourselves with. So everybody around me was, I feel like already like, oh, I'm gonna go back to school, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, which is what I wanted to do. I'm always thinking about like learning and growing and like just being the best version of myself that I could be. So I was like, I kind of want to go, I don't like what I'm doing right now, so how can I change that? I need to do something else. So either I go part-time here and I go back to school, or I work in a different unit, or I don't know, but whatever it is that I'm doing here, I'm no longer satisfied with it. It's not enough.
Just coming to the realization.
I'm not the type of person that becomes like complacent.
Okay.
Like, you know how people just like kind of,
Dude, yeah.
some people are comfortable. Like they work on the same unit for 20 years and they're so
Yeah.
happy and they love it. I'm not like that. I need like constant change or I'm not happy.
But you noticed, and you're really in tune to yourself, that you weren't happy.
It was right after I had posted that video that I'm talking about, sometimes I think about it as that video.
Oh, yeah.
When I got to the point that I posted, because I don't post things like that ever. Like I never post like gloomy things or sad
Very
things.
sentimental,
I try
yeah.
to keep my page like happy and like funny
Yeah.
and like a good like entertainment. Like I don't want to like kill anybody's vibe.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're scrolling on TikTok, you're watching funny videos, and then you see some sad
Yeah,
thing,
some
and
really
it's like,
sad, you're
oh,
like-
this girl sucks. Like she's so depressing. So I always try to keep it happy. So for me to post that, that's already the point that I was struggling. Like I was mentally struggling. You could tell, like I wasn't posting content for a while. I wasn't doing things for a while. I was like struggling emotionally. Like it was hard for me. So I was like, I need to get out of this environment. I'm no longer happy, and I'm like, don't feel like a good person. Like working, I don't, because I feel like I'm not doing the best I can.
I feel like a lot of people, they know that and they know they're going there, like especially in nursing school, right? Or even in a really toxic job or a toxic unit. You already know, your gut already knows, but you push through it anyways. And then, so when was the point where you're like, no, I gotta make a change?
Yeah, so it was like right after, I think like the second or the third wave. How many waves is there? I don't know.
I don't even remember waves.
It was like, there was like the first wave,
Okay.
which was like all of 2020, which was bad. The second wave came 2021.
And so it's grinding you down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I think that, okay, I would say the second wave was after the vaccines.
Yeah.
Because the first wave was everything, there was nothing we could do. Then the vaccine came out and it was like, okay, there's something you could do to prevent it. And then for me, when the CDC came out and said like, if you're a nurse and you're vaccinated, you can go to work anyways, I was like,
Oh, okay, no.
Like
yeah,
if you have
COVID.
If you have COVID and you're a nurse.
How did you feel about that? Like, you fire the unvaxxed nurses.
You fired the unvaxxed nurses.
And then you make the COVID positive nurses because you don't have any staff anymore.
It makes it look like the vaccine is a joke, and it doesn't even. That's what it makes it look like.
It does.
It truly makes it look like the vaccine is a joke, and it doesn't even matter. And it was like, yeah, so you guys are gonna have to do this because that's all we got. Figure it out. Like,
yeah.
I thought that was super disrespectful. I thought that was a huge slap in the face. I didn't like that at all. Like even my organization, like where I work, the hospital, they didn't agree with that. My manager doesn't agree. Of course, nobody agrees with that.
So they didn't.
If you're sick, no. Like if you're no, like I got
sick. Stay home if
sick.
you're sick.
I got really sick in December, really sick, and like I tested for COVID and it was negative. I've actually never tested positive for COVID ever.
What?
I've never, but I feel like those tests are fake.
It's a false negative. Yeah.
I genuinely think that I had it.
Really?
Because I was dying. I felt horrible. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't lay flat.
Really?
Yeah.
You
I had orthopnea. I was like sleeping and I couldn't lay flat. I felt like I couldn't breathe when I laid flat. I had a fever, like a nonstop fever for like 3-4 days. It would go away with antibiotics, but it was bad.
Did they try to get you coming to work?
No.
Oh, okay.
I told my boss like I'm really sick, and he's like, "Don't worry about it. Take all the time you need." And I took like a week off. They're really good. I mean, my new job is great. Like they're super nice. They never have told me anything about my social media. They know that I don't do it at work.
Yeah.
Or like
That's
do
all
it
they
like
have to know, really.
I'll do it in my free time.
Which is really good because a lot of new grads and new nurses, they just focus on like, I just need to get a job. They don't look at the culture and the
I mean,
mental
that's
health.
what I did.
Everyone does that, right? Until you get into that home.
And then you're like,
And you're like,
this isn't for me.
crap.
I took the first thing I was given.
Yeah, a
Like,
lot of people do.
I was like, this is an amazing opportunity. This is one of the top hospitals in Miami. They're not gonna pay me good, but they're gonna train me to get to the point that after that I can negotiate whatever pay I want because I come from that hospital and everybody knows that and it has leverage. So I just took it. You take it and you run with it. But I do feel like it was very undervalued.
No, it's so true, and it's the same thing in new grad nursing as well as getting into nursing school. Usually people are like, I got into a nursing school. They don't know, what the teachers are like, what the culture is like, what the workflow is like, and the organization of it. It's just like, they don't even know if it's a broken home or a good home. It's just like, I got into this hospital.
And I'm just gonna take it.
And any advice to, now you're probably more selective of hospitals that you're going to go to, and
For sure.
how do you navigate that?
Well, the new place that I'm working at, I did have a friend who already works there.
Okay.
So she had told me like, oh, you're gonna love it here. And she's one of my best friends, so I took her word for it. And I went and I saw it. I remember like day one, I was like, this place is amazing. Like it was just so different.
The opposite. Like, this place is crap.
No, this place is amazing. I was like, this is so, like everybody is so nice. I feel like the job is the job, no matter where you're gonna be, it's gonna be a job. What's more important is the people that you surround yourself with. So like your coworkers, your manager, that is going to be a game changer if that's a good place or not. Because nursing is nursing everywhere.
Anything you look for, like in a good place?
Yeah, I look for people that teamwork. Like you always see people helping. Like nobody is just sitting down on their phone. Like you see, like when like the one nurse that never helps anybody is like struggling, and everybody's just like on their phone. Like, well, that sucks. Like not my problem. Like I'm on break. I never saw that culture there.
Okay.
Like people were drowning and other people were helping, and people would come in and I do that too. I was on break the other day, and I had like 10-15 minutes left, and they're like, oh, there's a stroke coming into your room, and I work in that room, and my coworker was covering for me, and I left and I went because my room, like and you like other people don't do that. They'll just like stay. The other place I worked at, not that hospital. So like when people help you out, you want to help them out too.
Yeah, it's very like
teamwork is number one for me.
Yeah, usually if you get what you get in return what you put out.
Yeah, and also if you can go to a teaching hospital.
Really?
If you're gonna work in a hospital, go to a teaching hospital because they're gonna teach you. It's not like a hospital like environment that it's like, oh, you don't know this.
Like a university hospital, or?
Yeah, university hospitals are good too. I feel like that's the best place to learn, like a teaching hospital where like there's residents.
Okay.
And like there's new grads all the time.
So everyone's there to learn. They're not going to shame you for not knowing something.
No one's going to shame me for not. I've never been shamed for not knowing something.
Really?
Or like if they make a comment, I'll be like, yeah, well, I didn't know. Guess I learned something new every day. Like I'll make a joke out of it.
Yeah.
But like I don't think anybody is supposed to know anything, and I hate that type of personality that like is
right.
a know-it-all.
Isn't like doctor's practice, nursing
Obnoxious.
practice.
Yeah.
It's a practice.
Yeah,
You're supposed to be
always
practicing
ask.
it.
I'm not embarrassed. I'll ask the doctor, even if it's a stupid question. I don't think any question is stupid. Just ask it, because you're gonna look more stupid when you don't do it.
Yeah.
And they ask you, why didn't you do this? Like, oh, I didn't know I had to. Always ask, and you learn.
Teaching hospitals.
Yeah,
Okay,
teaching
nice.
hospitals.
For the new grads out there, teaching hospitals. All right, guys, that wraps it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so
Yeah.
nice being here. So nice to meet you in person finally.
Any last words to new nurses getting into the programs or starting their nursing journeys this year?
I think you should always follow your gut, follow your heart, as corny as it sounds. If you feel like an environment isn't good for you and it's not going to help you grow, then definitely you need to move and grow. Right now is the best time to be a nurse in the sense that we're so in demand that you can go into any specialty that you want to go into. So now is the time, you know. Follow your heart. Don't just think that you have to take a med-surg job just because you have to. You can definitely go into a specialty straight out of nursing school and try to go into a program that has a residency program. So they can train you for that specialty, you'll feel good, and definitely do teamwork, you know? Use the people around you to help you, and you should be good.
All right, thanks so much, Rachel, because remember, where your focus goes,
Your energy flows.